Hi, my name is Neil Chambers. I'm the co-founder of Chambers Design. We are a landscape and urban design build company. We're based in New Jersey. And this is a new video that we are doing around materials to help people kind of think through the options for projects that they may want to do. This is primarily focused to residential work, but in this I'm going to show you a couple of times where we use materials for urban design projects as well, so that just in terms of diversity of usability. So I thought what we could start, as you can see on the screen, is sustainable woods and the options there, and then I thought we'd go over some pricing and stuff like that, because I think that of all of the materials that are available on the market, these sustainable woods and just general wood is is not always really well understood. So, because I think the really important thing in terms of materials, number one, they need to look really, really good. They need to be really rich. They need to have a real impact on the design and really push it in a certain direction. They need to be durable. We don't want to use products and materials that can't withstand the test of time. Thirdly, I think that all of the products that are used in a project should have some sustainable features. The more, the merrier. And I think that's possible for just about any product you would use for a residential project. And 4 is cost, and maybe 4 should be number 1, because I think cost is a really big factor for making decisions around what products are going to be used. The woods we're going to look at today are not the cheapest woods. Now I'll explain what that means in later, but they are, in terms of could you afford them, is yes. The big answer is yes, and they also fulfill the other criteria. So one of the things I wanted to talk about quickly is in terms of finishing woods for exterior projects, cedar is the most often where when we start talking with clients and start doing designs for clients, is where people are starting their understanding about materials. If they want a wood finish, a cedar is usually what they suggest, or they at least that's what they've heard of. And if you're working with contractors, in most areas, cedar is what's the most available. We have found other avenues for using other types of hardwoods. The thing about cedar is that it's a soft wood, and that's really important in terms of how it will wear over time. So, if it's a high trafficked area, cedar might not be the best. So cedar comes in kind of 2 main qualities. There's what's called like knotty cedar, which is kind of the lower end of a cedar, and then there's something called clear C, which is a much higher quality. And just these 2 images, I'm trying to show you how different they are. So in this image, you can see there's a lot more knots. Usually if you get like a standard knotty cedar, one side of it's going to be finished and the other side will be rough and not finished. So that's important to know. And I think and the other thing about that is that if the finished side for some reason gets dinged up or something in transit or something like that, when you flip it over, it's going to be a rough side, and you're going to have to finish that, and then it'll be finished at a different level as everything else. So you might have to end up refinishing everything if there's too many boards that have that kind of quality. The other thing is that the finished side doesn't always go with the grain, and you might want it to be on the opposite side, because the way wood ages, it has a crown and it can sometimes bow up or down, and you want to make sure everything's installed correctly so you don't have that. The finished side does not always go about that rule, and so that's another issue that you should consider, and that's why it's just not as expensive. The clear C is that it is finished on both sides. It's a higher quality wood in general, at least in my experience when we've spec'd it out and used it. when you feel it and touch it, it just has a higher quality. The color is a little better as well. So and that means it's much more expensive. And I think that's really important to know about cedar. I love cedar. Now, when you're using it for a deck or siding or something like that, cedar typically is going to be a little thicker than, say, if you're going to, a lot of times you can go to places like Home Depot and get cedar fencing, but the pieces of cedar are so thin, and that's why the cost can be so less. And I think that has a lot of reason why people think cedar is a better idea than other woods. But cedar is a great one to use. We've used it a lot. The thing I wanted to talk about, though, and this is the first one, Garapa, is that there are a lot of tropical hardwoods that are sustainably forested, and you can get them from sustainably forested, certified mills and also companies and farms and stuff like that. So this may not have been true 5, 10, 15 years ago, but now there's a lot of opportunity to buy sustainably forested wood that's certified, that has the CFC or has the chain of custody numbers that come with it, which is a nice way just to help you feel comfortable with that it is actually sustainable. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, just a little bit more detail. But this is one of the products that we've used a lot, Garapa. Garapa is just gorgeous. It has a very teak look. This is a project that we've finished at the early part of the winter. This is all Garapa. It's the thing that's really nice about it is that it comes in, it has a very blonde color. And the other thing that's really nice about using wood like this is that, as you can see, instead of having railing, let me see, that is like this, which is really nice as well, you can just turn the board and give yourself a really beautiful railing that has a really striking look from outside. I mean, I think those lines that the boards make are really nice. So Garapa is a really great option. It's not available everywhere. We buy direct, so we also have, I think that's the important thing. Finding your source for the material is going to be the hardest depending on where you are, depending in the US or internationally. But if you have the opportunity, you should definitely look into that and look at. This is a very hard wood. It lasts for a long time, and the maintenance is very low on these types of this type of wood. For the same project that I was just showing for the deck, we've used Garapa for fencing as well, and this is a really beautiful horizontal fence that we built with it. And I just can't, there's just so much usability with this that it just makes a project just really amazing, and it really just changes the whole atmosphere of a project when you have something like this that is your finished product. Another type of wood that we've used a lot is called tiger wood, and tiger wood we've used. This is a shot that we're using tiger wood for the deck that you can see right in front of where the front of the car is. We used it for siding, and the foreground, you can see the top of a small fence that we built as well using tiger wood. Tiger wood is much more orange than most types of wood, and what you can't see in this, I may have a couple of images where you can, the striping, the reason that's called tiger wood is that it's more orange than other types of woods, but it also has these incredible stripes that go through it that is just beautiful close up and gives you a certain level of like aesthetic that's you just can't find anywhere else. This is another shot. So on this picture you can see where there's that pop out that we used tiger wood for that area. And in this picture you can start to really see the dark lines that are in it, and just how amazing and how much of a focal point using this wood can be. Now for siding, you have to use a shiplap wood and not a you could use standard, but shiplap allows that line between each of the boards to be a little thinner, and it makes it a little cleaner. You don't want to use tongue and groove for exterior work in general, just because of the amount it can get wet and it gets hot and cold and expands and stuff. So you want to use a shiplap or a standard board for this. The other thing that I wanted to mention about this is that these are 1x4s and not 1x6s. We use a lot of 1x4s versus this is also a 1x4. This is a 1x4. These are all 1x4s. Now the top rail of this is a 1x6 to kind of give you a sense of different sizing. I like to use a 1x4 because it's a thinner line, and there it looks a little bit more contemporary, a little more modern, a little cleaner. It makes you need sometimes you need a little bit more wood, and thereby it gives you a little bit more line to it. So there's a really nice kind of quality about that. That is something to consider if you are using wood. So often normal decking will come in 1x6s or 5/4 by 6, which just is the dimensions. The 6-inch is just a little too fat, and it doesn't provide that same feel that is important for a design. So when you're thinking about wood, think about the dimension as well. And if the materials that you're trying to use don't come in a 1x4, you should really make sure you don't want to go for a 1x6 because that's what's available. It should be available in general, but so often people just aren't asking for it, or they're looking to the wrong provider or source of the wood, so they're not able to find it. This is another nice little detail that we used this is tiger wood. So this is on a house, and where kind of this you have this skylight and it's coming up, and so to give it a sense of style and to kind of let it really pop, we used the tiger wood to trim this as well, and just a really beautiful look. And another shot of tiger wood, this was actually for a pen that we were making, so that this is catnip. The plants that are growing are catnip, and the owners wanted to give the cats a little bit of space that they could move around on, so this was something that we built. So it's really versatile. It's really easy to use. It's not as hard as other stuff that we'll go over, like an Ipe, a Macaron Duba, which is extremely dense, but this is a dense hardwood. And I think this is a project we did in South Orange, New Jersey. It is a parklet that we designed and built, and so in terms of usability, durability, I wanted to show this because this is a public project. So this parklet was essentially a mini park that we built that took up 2 parking spaces on one of the main streets in South Orange. And the reason I'm showing this is that it got used a lot. So these 2 shots are year 1. So this the one on the right is when we were building it, and the one on the left was when we just were finished and everything was set up, like the plants and the chairs and the tables. It's really beautiful. And so this is year 1, and then I wanted to show you this is year 2. So how the wood kind of ages. This was year 2 is when we were building it off site, and we were going to transport it to the same area. So the shot on the left is when we were building it before it was installed on site, and the one on the left the one on the right is when it was installed. And so you can see how the wood has kind of changed colors a little bit, and really gives that look so often people want of that wood. It just speaks of wood. It really looks beautiful. And the thing is, like, it was used a lot, and so we really liked the way it looked for this when we were doing it like this. This coming year, when we install it, we will probably clean the wood and oil it just to kind of rejuvenate it a little bit, but that's about all you need to do. And when you clean it, we don't normally pressure wash it, because pressure washing can damage the wood. We use some products that are eco-friendly, and that will clean off the grime and then brighten the wood up a little bit, and then we'll oil it just to give it a little bit of a rejuvenation. Because the thing about tropical hardwoods is that they are very oily naturally, and so you don't have to really maintenance them a lot. And when you oil something like this, you're not painting it, and you're not even staining it. You're literally just adding, I don't know, a fraction of an inch of oil on it, just to kind of give it a little bit of a rejuvenation. This is a batu wood that we use for a pool project. So these were some stairs we built. These are steel stairs. The risers are steel, and then the treads are grass. And so this project was really interesting because it was built into a slope that we had to flatten out, and we had to build retaining walls. So the fence was made out of batu. Then what you can see on that wall, that short wall, is actually a retaining wall that was built with concrete block, and then we skinned it with that wood to kind of give it a really nice look to it. And you can see also on the foreground on the right lower corner, there was another retaining wall that we had to build. We built it out of concrete block again, which is a very affordable or inexpensive way to build a retaining wall, and then we skin it with this wood, which makes it look, super fantastic. I mean, it's really a beautiful wood. And this is, as you can see, it has a much redder tone to it. This is and so this is what it looks like. And this photo was taken a year after it was installed, so the wood was oiled the year prior to this, and then so you can kind of get a sense about how it still looks really beautiful even a year out. And so this is a good shot. This is a shot of it close up. This is the retaining wall with the fence, and just really amazing lighting kind of put into the wall to kind of give you a nice little ambiance at night. And you can see some plants that we put in, a stilby, and there's some firetail in there that are growing. So really nice project. This project, it was also in New Jersey, but it feels like it's in Santa Monica when you're in the space. So Masarandubba is a wood I wanted to mention as well. It is the hardest wood. This wood is the most dense wood, the densest wood on the planet. Really beautiful, and you can see that as it ages, it has a more of a red, deep tone to it. Another great option, totally affordable to use, can last up to 30 years. So it's good for, anything. A residential project could use this without any worry. Even in a public arena, you could use this and not worry about it as well. It's that sturdy. So this is another wood that I think you should consider or try to get your hands on. The one that everyone knows about is Ipe, and I think Ipe is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful wood that, if you can use it, it is, of all these woods that I'm showing you, it is the most expensive. And and the thing about it is that you do need to find the right sources for this wood to get it to find it and to purchase it at a price that doesn't kill the project. The thing that's nice about Ipe is it also is extremely dense, and thereby it's very, very durable and low maintenance. Same thing I was talking about with the tiger wood. You should totally use this, and then oil it once every 2 years or once a year, or clean it with some really nice products that are not damaging or potentially making the wood splinter. So don't use pressure washers to do this. Use there's some decking cleaning products that are really great that will just clean it off, and then you re-oil it. And oiling it again, you're not painting on that oil. You are putting a super, super thin coat. You're actually going to put the oil on and then you're going to wipe it right off. And so, because you don't want any excess oil on the wood when you're done, especially on horizontal surfaces, because if there's too much on it, it gets sticky. And if it gets sticky, if you walk across it, your footprint will stay there, or dirt from the air will get into it and it'll make it look dirty. So you want to put it on and then you want to wipe it off. If you are using a wood, if you are using an oil, the one other thing I want to mention is that you have to follow the instructions, because some of the oils that you use for decks can be extremely flammable if left alone and not left in the bucket or the rags that you use to wipe off excess, or the pieces of equipment that you use, like a sponge or whatever, or a brush that you use to put it on. If it's not treated in exactly the way that it's instructed for on the product, it could catch on fire. So it's really important that you use the oil in a really safe way. So the thing about sustainability is that when it comes to hardwoods like this, these are tropical hardwoods. They are likely, all these are coming from South America. And so the thing I wanted to talk about, I mentioned it before, is that you want to make sure you buy your products from a sustainably forested certified organization, whether that is the farm or the mill or both. And the reason I showed this is that I wanted to show, like, deforestation is a big problem in South America, and that, of course, of all the deforestation that was going on, this is 2000, 2005, the majority of that, 60% of that, is from cattle ranches, but there's still a large amount from logging. 3% of all the deforestation is happening from logging, and that's the things, that is the logging practices that you are buying your wood from. And if you're buying sustainably forested wood, you are making sure that whatever is taken from the forests are done in a way that is going to help new trees to grow. It's not done in a way that's going to cause bigger environmental problems downstream. And so, just double check before you purchase that it is sustainably forested, and that there are sustainable practices that are employed with the product that you're buying. So I think the last thing, and the big thing that everybody's always wants to know about, is pricing. So I wanted to just show you some pricing that I've found. Now, with wood, like every other material, the costs can vary. So these are costs that I got probably a month ago. So they do fluctuate from season to season. Slow season to high season, you may see a difference in different regions of the country. I'm sure there can be different costs, and absolutely whoever you're buying them from can be jacking up the price or getting it from places that they have to make the prices more to justify selling them. But what I wanted to show you was just an idea, to kind of give you an idea. And these are 1x4s and 1x6s. So the dimensions that we were talking about earlier, that's what's priced out here. And this is a linear foot amount of wood. So you can see right in the middle, knotty cedar and knotty cedar clear C, which are usually what people are requesting, and when they, or at least where we start the conversation when they want to use wood. You can see that the Clear C is very expensive, and in fact, of all the woods that are available that we use, it is the most expensive. So, in some regards, it's not. If it is about budget, Clear C may not be in the project. The knotty cedar, which I can only find cedar in 1x6s. I usually cannot find it in 1x4s, and that's a big deal when you're trying to get a very contemporary or modern look. You want to have the variety of the widths, and so now it is not as of all of the 1x6s shown here, it is the least expensive, but again, it's coming with a lot of baggage. Maybe one side isn't finished on the right side. There could become some extra work that has to be done to give you what you're looking for. along the same lines, the Tiger Wood is only 40 cents more a linear foot. The Garapa is only 55 cents a linear foot more. Kumaru, which we didn't talk about, but it's also, so I guess the point, instead of me going through all this, is that these prices, these hardwoods don't price themselves out. And if you are, and as you can see, Ipe, which is the highest of all of these, it is lower than the Clear C, which I think is important. And then when you go into the 1x4s, you can see there's a much different price range in terms of cost. And the only thing I need to mention about 1x4s when it comes to price is that, so if you have say a 12-inch, just imagine a 12-inch space that needs to have these come in. If you're using 1x6s, you only need 2 pieces of board to fill in that space. With 1x4s, you need 3 pieces. So in the end, when I've done this, because the lower price of the 1x4s versus the 1x6s, you can build a deck, or you can build a fence, or you can use it for siding, and they basically shake out to be the same cost, or very near the same cost, and you still get the design quality that you're looking for. So, that's about everything I wanted to cover today in this video about materials. Just really love using natural, sustainable woods for projects to give a project a special feel. Like I said, we buy a lot of the stuff direct, and so a lot of our competitors are not able to. They don't have the relationships, but I think it's probably all the stuff is available throughout the country, and it's like, if you are thinking about a project and you do want to give it its own kind of special twist, using sustainable woods is the way to go. And with that, I'll see you soon. Also, don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Design for Nature, or on our website, chambersdesign.net. Thanks.